Day 1048 of the Ukrainian War Map, also known as the Russo-Ukrainian War. Juzzie here, and today is another update as I take a simplified and down-to-earth approach to some of the most important happenings on the ground in Ukraine. So starting off, we'll take a look at those Russian losses, as currently Russia sits on more than 798,000 military personnel losses, representing an additional 1,550 in the past day. Then as for hardware losses, 14 tanks, 45 APVs, 62 artillery, and 2 air defense systems. With one of those entries including this all-in-one missile launcher, control station, and radar short to medium range surface-to-air missile Pantsir S1 air defense system. With this $10 million loss happening in the Kherson region. Then headed across to the map and starting off in Kursk, with Ukraine attacking in 3 directions, with an always tricky information space in these types of enemy caught off guard events, where Ukraine is almost never the first to talk about their activities in the name of maintaining good operational security. But that doesn't stop us from piecing together all of the angles, including of the sometimes panicking Russian sources near to the ground, trying to make heads and tails of what just transpired. So looking deeper, the piecing together of multiple reports indicate that Ukrainian columns have penetrated Russian defenses approximately 8 kilometers deep to the northeast, primarily around the village of Burden. Satellite imagery now also reveals multiple new craters south of Burden, particularly concentrated along the road used by Ukrainian forces during their advance. Now, geolocation efforts have suggested that Ukrainian units may have established positions beyond Burden and to the nearby Novosibirsk area. Now, Russian military bloggers have voiced concerns that this renewed Ukrainian push could serve as a diversionary tactic. The evidence they claim is that AFU troops are moving with their equipment through Kharkiv's ring road towards Sumy, where Ukraine has built up additional forces. So these spoken of diversionary tactics are entirely plausible because take for example where the AFU took back practically all of Russia's holdings of the Kharkiv region some time ago, right when they were expecting Ukraine to take back the Kherson's North Bank region, which they still did, but at a later time instead. But as it might relate to these events, the Russian commentary here believes that Tetkino further in the west could be what these diversion tactics are all about. Another Russian mill blogger, Romanov, also claims that what happened yesterday was not the main blow, with the main attack at the junction of Belgorod and the Kursk regions, warning that there was still time to prepare, but falling short of calling the Chechen units positioned in this region as useless, something he more or less did a few months ago, only to be strong-armed by the Chechens into creating a video apology to state how wrong he was and how amazing those Russian Chechen units are. But ultimately, any diversions are possible, but it doesn't preclude the fact that Ukraine would still have performed a great deal of preparation for these existing renewed and decisive offensive operations in Kursk's northeastern front. Moreover, on that topic, reports indicate that Ukrainian forces are employing more effective combined arms tactics, utilizing long-range fires to disrupt rear Russian enemy positions, and as we've already seen, electronic warfare to degrade Russian drones in support of their mechanized attacks, so the Ukrainian AFU mechanized advances. Interestingly, Russian military reports indicate that not only have Ukraine's electronic warfare measures against Russian drones been effective, but that Russian aviation has been additionally impacted, with reports suggesting that their 1,000-pound glide munition drops are affected too. Prominent Russian telegrammer FB stated on his social media channel, quote, "We can't drop fabs or use drones. Ukrainian EW is jamming everything." Meanwhile, Russian emergency services issued an evacuation order for the entire Bolshesodatsky district in the Kursk Oblast due to military threats. Seems a bit late or reactive, almost to the tune of many months, although the hope might be to make things a little bit easier for Russia to perform some of those scorched earth tactics on their own lands, seeking to flat out annihilate their own Russian towns in the process. How the tables have strangely hugely turned in this war. Oh, and then also of note, commander of Russia's Chechen Akhmat Battalion, Abdi Alordinov, was also quite quick to make statements of Russian success, and just like I promised he would yesterday, where he said a great many things, but to sum it up, in his own words, he said, quote, "The enemy tried to break through, failed, a significant amount of enemy equipment was destroyed, ours are fighting heroically." Yep, right on cue. Nothing changes with this guy. Always to be taken with a grain of salt. Now, if his unit is always doing such a fantastic job, then why didn't they take back Kursk months ago? That should be the first question. So it's another example that speaks to the lack of accountability and lies within the Russian military landscape, ultimately affecting the option for effective resource allocation on a broader scale for their military. Also in Kursk, Russian mechanized forces did perform some ground-launched counterattacks in the region after losing ground to Ukraine, where Osman, a commander in Ukraine's 24th 8R Battalion, reported that enemy BMD vehicles were destroyed near the border. In that instance, 2 destroyed and 2 abandoned, although border is a bit of a mistranslation in this case, as he was referring to the Frontline contact point border, or the Ork border if you will, just northwest of Kroglenko. Then as for some very special Russian updates for this region, as Russia's Northern Grouping channel again wanted to show us the huge Ukrainian losses from today's and yesterday's offensive operations. One slight problem though, they were trying to sell us old Russian losses in Kursk from a couple of weeks ago in the region's northwest beyond Novovinovka. A Buhanka vehicle here, a metallic monstrosity there. Nice try. Now on the flip side of this, there's a whole treasure trove of footage of the destruction of Russian equipment beyond what I'll show you, because just like last time, much of it gets held back initially, because, again, OPSEC requirements. Then headed next door in the motherland, as in a troubling incident highlighting ongoing challenges in drone warfare, Russian air defenses mistakenly shot down their own Supercam reconnaissance UAV in Belgorod. This friendly fire mishap underscores a critical issue: the persistent lack of identification friend or foe systems, or IFF systems, in use by Russia's military. It's a significant shortcoming that continues to plague Russia's army, where through a lack of combined arms warfare communication, these types of issues continue to persist. Then far, far away into Russia's Bashkortostan region, as video circulating on local Telegram channels of the region shows someone defiantly burning the flag of the Russian Empire. That's right, the Russian Empire flag, which is 2 iterations ago in the context of Russia's historical progression. After that was the Soviet Union, followed by, of course, the Russian Federation as we know it today. But if you wait long enough, it could be counting for 3 iterations after the Russian Empire. But back to Bashkortostan, because for many in this resource-rich region, where Moscow exploits local wealth, the flag symbolizes oppression, sparking acts of rebellion like this. So this incident hints at a continued and growing independence movement of the region that's really been a long time in the making at this point. The cracks of the regime continue to emerge. Then headed down the map or into Ukraine, where the AFU's 33rd Mechanized Brigade launched attacks in the Kharkova direction. The fighters of the brigade destroyed a tank southwest of Kharkova, with reports of already advancing AFU elements towards Dalny, with this type of activity here appearing to have all the hallmarks of an AFU counterattack in the region. Then headed across to Kherson, where there's been reports of Ukraine deploying naval drones to launch aerial UAVs from as a means of surveillance. Now, this operation, conducted between Skidovsk and Armyansk, aims to scout key routes from Crimea to the Kherson region, and I have to say, although an event like this may no longer set a historical precedent, nonetheless it's a tactical evolution showcasing the integration of sea and air assets in Ukraine's defense strategy. Then taking a look at some operational updates for Russia in the Kerch Stray, where more than half the barges tasked with safeguarding the Kerch bridge from Ukrainian naval drones have been lost during recent storms. Now, this is something that we've already known, we're already aware of, but it's now been 3 or so weeks since the Russian problem arose, where as of now the issue remains the same, with the Russian MOD seeming to have no immediate plans for restoring the damaged or destroyed barges, leaving a potentially gaping wide open vulnerability in Russia's defensive perimeter for this location. But I expect no less from the Russian MOD's paranoia here than to at least have some patrol boat crews or even jet ski riders equipped with AK-47s strapped to their backs to manage for a worst case scenario of naval drones slipping right through. Then to a land far, far away, where we see Russian evacuation vessels stuck in limbo off Syria's coast. The Sparta, the first Russian vessel to arrive, has been circling 5 nautical miles from Tartus in Syria since early this morning, unable to dock. And why? Moscow hasn't secured permission from the new Syrian government. So with no current access to a port, Russia's only exit may have to transition to a mass evacuation from the Khmeimim airbase, some 50 miles north, where their equipment and personnel are not under immediate threat, but it's always a real bit of a touch-and-go situation in the region still, with the new Syrian government maintaining some semblance of a relationship with the outgoing Russian forces who want to transport their military equipment and weapons from Syria to Libya, as part of their aims to bolster their influence and support with allied governments inside of Africa. Now, likewise on this front, the Russian Kilo-class submarine, the Novorossiysk, has left the Mediterranean, retreating from Syria. This withdrawal leaves Russia with no permanent sub-base in the Mediterranean, which means Russia loses a critical asset for projecting power in the Mediterranean, limiting its ability to deter NATO operations, monitor naval activity, or support their own operations in the region. I really like the photo here too, as seen through the sight of the Portuguese frigate NRP Alvarez Cabral. Then headed to a quick lighter segment and back to the classics, because in another touching display of humanity amid the chaos, a Ukrainian defender doubles as a rescuer, saving animals stranded along the combat line. With a grin, he notes he's saved around 80 cats so far, and so it's a small but poignant reminder that even in war, compassion endures. So that's it for today, guys. Thanks again for watching. Please continue to like and comment. And yeah, thanks for sticking around. And I do hope to see all of you guys there in the next one. Cheers.